Hi, welcome to Wild Cut. Hi there, and welcome to Drawing Wild Washington. I'm your host, Jed Dunkerley, Associate Artist with the Burke Museum at the University of Washington in Seattle. In this program, we'll be drawing life from the coastal marine ecology. Now, if you haven't watched the Drawing Wild Washington intro yet, go back and do that first so you can get an idea of what we're doing, how we're doing it, and why. Now, in this episode, we will be drawing a mammal, which is the orca, and a bird, the bald eagle. These are animals that live in and around salt water on the Puget Sound and the Olympic Peninsula. All right, so first we're gonna get to the orca. I am gonna grab my light-colored drawing pencil, and you can use a light-colored pencil or you can just use a regular pencil and draw lightly. This is called underdrawing, by the way. And the lighter you draw, the easier it'll be to make it go away later as you finish. So I'm going to use some simple shapes to get us started. And you got to start somewhere, so I'm just going to pick the head. Okay, so like I said, the orca is, Latin is Orcinus orca. That's the scientific name for it. I'm going to start by drawing a circle for the head, about yay big. Okay, and as I draw my shapes, I don't need them to be perfect. Sometimes you'll see me draw over and over and over again. That's fine. Just try to keep the lines pretty light and come along with me. So we'll start with a circle, and then the body is going to be 6 of those long. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that is the length of the body, and I measured it based on the head. But the body gets a little bit bigger. So on the third circle, 1, 2, 3, I'm going to draw it a little bit wider, like that. And on the 6th circle, where the tail starts, I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. Okay, and that's going to create a taper, which makes the body really what's called aquadynamic, which means it can slide through the water really efficiently. It's like being aerodynamic, but for water. Okay, it's got this torpedo-like shape. Okay. All right. Now for the snout, I'm going to come off the front right side of this face shape and just do a triangle. Okay, and then, because it's not a beak, you're going to round the triangle after you finish it. Okay, so that is how you get that sort of snout at the beginning of the orca. Now the next thing I'm going to do, and I do this a lot, is I'm going to measure how long I just made my body, and there's no right answer. Mine's about 20 centimeters long. So I'm just going to split that into half, so that would be 10. You might have to do some math depending on what your measurements are. So that's the halfway point on the body. And then I'm going to also measure half of the half. So halfway to 10 is 5. That'll be right there, and that's the 1/4 point. And then halfway between 10 and 20 is 15. That's the 3/4 mark. And I find a lot of times it's helpful to measure those out for references. And it just so happens that some of the features on the orca line up exactly with those simple quarter markings. For instance, the pectoral fin is right along the line of this like 3/4 marking, just behind the head. And it's an oval about as big as the head. And the males, these are even bigger. Okay, so I'm going to draw an oval coming out right here at the 3/4 mark. And that's my pectoral fin. And again, at the halfway point, this is where the dorsal fin comes off. And the dorsal fin, depending on the individual, could be half the height of the body or even bigger. For males, they can get even longer. And I'm going to just draw, going from the halfway point back, I'm going to draw a simple kind of skinny triangle. Okay, and again, in real life, these are a lot of different shapes. I'm just drawing a basic one. And a lot of scientists will recognize orcas based on the shape of their dorsal fins. And they're shaped differently for males and females as well. And then the only other fins I haven't drawn are the tail fins. And these are a little bit difficult because they are in perspective. So for instance, if you were drawing my hand like that, it would be one thing. But then if I turned it like that, it would be another thing. And then if I turned it like that, it'd be another thing entirely. And harder to draw. So sometimes I just cut myself some slack and I just draw a simplified version of it. So for the tail fin, I'm going to draw about the same length as one of these circles. just kind of a skinny triangle, kind of like the pectoral fin here. And then draw another one, kind of going off the other way, like that. And they just sort of overlap. Okay, just like that. All right, next up, I am going to draw the markings, okay? And the body has several distinctive markings which make it look like what some people call it the panda bear of the ocean. And it has these white patches on the underside of them. And unless you've really studied orcas, you might not know where those are. So I'm going to spell it out for you. There's a patch back here called the genital patch, which is at about the 1/4 mark, okay? Conveniently, again, located. So I'm going to make an oval right along the edge, and then I'm going to attach it to the bottom of the body on the front here, and then it kind of curves back like that. Okay, and that'll be one of the white markings. The other one is up in front of the pectoral fin, and it goes up and then curves over, and it goes right to the tip of the snout. Okay, as a matter of fact, the mouth itself is right along this front part of it. Then right above that white patch is a white, what's called the eye patch, which isn't really where the eye is at all. The eye is in between those two. But if you look at photos of orcas, it's really hard to see where the eyes are. They're very well hidden. And then lastly, there's a marking that a lot of people overlook. It's called the saddle patch. And it comes from right behind the dorsal fin, and it curves forward and then backward and then forward again. So it's kind of like a weird swoosh, like a Nike shoe. And that's kind of what you got there, okay? So take a look at the simple geometry. I'm going to go in with my darker pencil and kind of go over the lines and then sort of start to darken it in a little bit. But I'll tell you a few things about the orca while I'm doing that. Did you know the orcas are actually the largest member of the dolphin family? It's true. We know them as whales, but they're actually dolphins. Okay. Did you know that for orcas, they can grow up to about 26 feet long and can weigh as much as 6 tons. Now, 6 tons is about 12,000 pounds. Did you know that there are 2 types of orcas based on their lifestyle? There are Puget Sound residents that live in the Puget Sound year-round, and they eat mostly, if not entirely, salmon and other fish. And there's other orcas that go up and down the coast of the Pacific Ocean, and they're called transients, and they eat marine mammals. So again, what I'm doing is I'm going back over the most important parts of the underdrawing, and then I'm going and impressing harder with my pencil, and these are going to be the things that kind of stay behind. You know, you see somebody making a building and they build these scaffolding and then they go back and they make the actual building and then they take the scaffolding away. If you've never seen that, that's basically what we're doing. So then you want to go in and color in the dark parts of your orca, okay, like this. Now I talked a little bit about the shape and size. And if you smudge like that, sometimes you get what's known as over smudge, and you can clean that up later, that's fine. Okay, and you basically want to darken this in. This patch will be a little bit lighter. And then you want to go through and make the whole thing a little bit darker. That's where the black areas are. And you can even go in with pen and make it super dark. The idea is that you want to make it dark enough that you don't really see the underdrawing anymore. But even if you do, sometimes that's kind of cool. So these are all the dark areas. That's dark. That's dark. And then you leave these areas light colored. Saddle patch again is kind of like gray. And the tail. Okay, and you get this nice black color. And then again, you can do a better job than I'm doing. I just want to go quickly here. Now, did you know, though, that baby orcas, when they're born, are a little bit brown in color? So this black is definitely more of an adult thing. All right, so there's the orca right there. Now, we're going to switch gears and do the bald eagle. All right, so for the bald eagle, First of all, the Latin is kind of complicated. I'll write it out for you. Bald eagle. Okay, it's Haliaeetus leucocephalus. Halii means sea, eatus means eagle, leuco means white, and cephalus means head. White-headed sea eagle. There you go. And the bald eagle has got a bunch of stuff sticking out of its body. So I'm going to start with the body part, and I'm going to put that right in the middle and prepare for things going out in all directions. Okay. Now the body itself, I'm going to draw as a kind of an oval, about yay big, and it's got sort of an angle to it. So it goes up at this angle right here. It's about, a little less than 45 degrees. And noting the angle is important because you're going to run things off the side of the body and they're going to have different angles. So if you know a little bit about angles, it can be helpful here. The wings are going to attach here and here. And the wings are going to be bigger than the body. As a matter of fact, the wingspan of these eagles is from 6 to 8 feet wide, which is a lot bigger than the bodies. And I'm going to draw at an angle like this, I'm going to draw a diamond that's larger than the size of the body, considerably larger. Okay. And then this one, I'm going to go about the same height. So I might draw even like a line over here. And then I'm just going to draw kind of a little skinny triangle over here because it's in perspective. Again, this wing's more like this and that wing's more like that. Okay. So it's going to look different and have a different shape, even though we know they kind of look the same. All right. Next thing I'm going to do is the head while I'm up here. And it is going to be a triangle that kind of goes in the same angle as the wing. So it's headed down just a little bit. And the triangle itself is about half the size of the body. So measure it out like that and then compare it to the shapes you've already drawn. Okay, and I use that a lot. The tail, I'm going to draw it as another oval. And instead of going at this angle, it's going to go almost more at this angle. And it's going to be about as big as the body. And I'm just going to stick it onto the end of the body right there. So you got two ovals. There's the body, and then there's the tail. And then the legs are like rectangles, and they come down off the bottom, and they're about as tall as the body, almost about as big as the head, actually. So I'm going to draw two little rectangles coming off the back of the bottom of the body. A lot of bees. And then in front of these rectangles, I'm going to draw two ovals about as wide as the rectangles, but forward a little bit. Okay, and these are going to be the feet and the talons. And I'll come back to those in just a second. All right, so this, believe it or not, is the basis of the bald eagle. Now these talons are 2 inches long. Okay, we talked about the wings are 6 to 8 feet wide. Did you know that in eagles, so I'm going to go in now and do some of the details. Eagles, females are actually 25% larger than the males, okay? And when we come in here, I'm going to draw the flight feathers off the back edge of the wing. And I'm just going to do a little pattern like this. And then when I get to the end, I'm going to draw several that are way bigger and longer and actually extend past the diamond. Okay, like that. And they just sort of curve out. They're almost like fingers on a hand. Then I'm going to come back in here, curve the wing, come down in here, and do the back wing. And those same flight feathers here are going to be here, but they're going to be kind of smashed and stuck together a little bit more. And then it just kind of goes in like that. Now the body comes down here and comes under here and then comes around here. And I'm leaving little holes for the leg, the front leg, and the tail. And then I'm also going to leave a little bit of a hole here for the head. Okay. Now, the bald eagle's body and wings and legs are dark brown, and the tail is light. So the tail comes out like this, and the feathers radiate out, which what I mean by that is they kind of all start at a central point right in here, and they all shoot out at different angles from that central point. So you could almost go in and very lightly draw in the feathers, and then you draw the ends like this. They come in like that. The legs, they have kind of a fringe, like a windswept feather kind of action on the backs of them. And then when they come up the front, they're kind of straight in the front. So they're like they kind of look like pants being blown by the wind. And then you come down here with the feet and these talons, which are up to 2 inches long, which is huge. It's like that long. That's like as big as this drawing, this single one of their talons. But you gotta, the main things you have to do for these is you gotta get the right number of toes. So there's one that goes back and there's 3 that go forward. And they can kind of overlap in weird ways. So depending on the angle, you might see it in a different formation. And then the head, as you change colors going from body to head, you'll get a little fringe of feathers kind of like that. And it follows a little bit of a curve. Then you come forward, and before you get to the end, you're going to bounce down like that, because that's where the beak is. And the beak itself hooks down, and then we're going to go on the bottom of the head. And then the beak extends past this curve, and then it kind of comes up like that. You draw a second line that hooks in like that. And the eye, if you continue the beak on like this, the eye is down below that, and it actually then lines up with the beak. So if you could make an angle like that, the eye would be right in here. And that is how you draw the basics of the bald eagle. So I'm going to go in and kind of color this in and tell you a little bit more about it while I do it. One of the most interesting things I found, I told you it's got these big talons. It eats mostly fish, and if you ever hang out near water and see a bald eagle, just keep watching it. And sometimes if it's flying over the water, you'll catch it diving down to catch a fish, and they can reach speeds of upwards of 100 miles an hour when they're diving down to hunt, which I find pretty extraordinary. But perhaps the most interesting thing, at least for me, about the eagle is that it builds the largest nests in the entire bird kingdom. And these nests can be up to 9.5 feet wide. They found them as much as 20 feet deep, which just sounds astounding to me. And they can weigh about 6,000 pounds, these nests. Don't ask me how they measure them. But 6,000 pound nests. So your average bald eagle weighs about, I guess a good sized one can weigh about 12 pounds, according to my research. So doing a little bit of math there, 6,000 pound nest, that is 500 times heavier than the animal itself weighs. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, building I live in probably weighs 500 times heavier than I do. Then again, I didn't build the building that I live in. And these guys build these things. It's pretty remarkable. So you can go in and spend as much time kind of darkening in and putting some feather textures and some shading and things like that. You could even, if you want, draw a fish in their talons right here like that. But I'll leave that up to you. This is the basics of the bald eagle. Okay? So that's it for now. Thanks for watching the Burke's Drawing Wild Washington. Until next time, I want you to just remember one thing. So drawing starts with seeing and thinking. So practice seeing the shapes within the shapes and thinking of how they go together in space. And then there's really nothing you can't draw. So until I see you again, happy drawing. What's that? You want more? Well, why didn't you say so? We've got coloring book pages available for each one of the ecosystems we've done a program on. And we've got the entire mural available as a silkscreened poster for purchase on the website. So check out the links and get yourself some more ecosystem art. Bye!